Unaware of his wife's $100 million inheritance, he dumped her after she became paralyzed and lost her job. She had given him everything: her time, her love, her strength. But when tragedy struck and a terrible accident left her paralyzed, his vows of forever turned to dust. The moment she lost her job, the man she trusted to be her rock became her executioner. "You're nothing but a burden now," he hissed as he shoved the divorce papers into her trembling hands. "I won't waste my life carrying dead weight. You can rot alone." Instead of choosing compassion, he chose cruelty. Instead of standing by her side, he walked away with another woman. At her weakest hour, he stripped her of dignity and love, leaving her to survive in silence. He thought her story was over, but what he didn't know was that the woman he cast aside, the one he called worthless, carried a secret. An inheritance worth $100 million. A fortune that would not only rebuild her shattered world, but also return her power in a way no betrayal could ever destroy. Sometimes the people you discard when they fall are the very ones destined to rise higher than you can ever imagine. Sometimes the shadow of the broken becomes the light you can never outrun. This is the story of betrayal, pain, and ultimate redemption. A story where love is tested, cruelty is exposed, and justice finds its voice. The room was dim, but her eyes sparkled with pride as she watched him pace with his new business idea scribbled across a notepad. Maya had worked a 12-hour shift at the credit union that day, but she still sat on the couch, nodding at every word her husband, Marcus, said. "I just need one more investor," Marcus insisted, waving his hands. "If this works, we'll never have to live paycheck to paycheck again. We'll be unstoppable." Maya smiled, though her body ached with exhaustion. "You'll get there, love. You always do. I'll cover the bills until things turn around." On the outside, it looked like devotion. A perfect wife cheering on her husband's dreams. Neighbors admired their bond. Colleagues envied Maya's supportive marriage. But behind the curtains, the truth was different. For every long day Maya worked to pay rent, Marcus spent hours in coffee shops with friends, talking big but producing little. She never complained. She cooked his meals, folded his laundry, and slipped him cash when he came home empty-handed. At night, when her legs trembled from fatigue, she told herself this was love, that someday he would see her sacrifice and repay it with equal devotion. But the imbalance grew heavier. Marcus began expecting her support, not appreciating it. "Don't nag me about money," he snapped one evening when she reminded him of overdue bills. "You think you're better because you have a job? Just wait. My time is coming." The words stung, but Maya swallowed the pain. She whispered to herself that he was only stressed, that real love meant patience. Her mother's worried voice on the phone echoed in her head. "Maya, a marriage where one builds and the other only takes will break you." She ignored it, convincing herself that she and Marcus were different. Yet deep inside, small cracks began to form. Every dismissal chipped at her heart. Every careless remark pressed weight onto her spirit. She smiled less, laughed less, carried more. To outsiders, Maya was the picture of devotion. But in her quiet moments, she felt the slow erosion of her worth. One night, after paying the last of their savings toward his failed pitch, Maya crawled into bed. She reached for Marcus's hand, seeking comfort. He pulled away. "Don't touch me, I'm thinking." The rejection hit harder than his words. In the silence of that dark room, Maya realized the truth she had been avoiding. Her love was being drained like water poured into cracked earth. No matter how much she gave, it would never be enough. Her heart trembled, but she still held on. Little did she know, this imbalance was only the beginning. The storm that would break her world was already gathering, closer than she imagined. It was raining the night everything changed. Maya had stayed late at work, finishing reports her exhausted eyes could barely focus on. The streets were slick, the headlights blurred. And as she crossed the road to catch her bus, a horn blared, tires screeched, the world spun. A delivery truck hit her. The impact was violent, her body thrown against cold pavement, breath ripped from her lungs, pain shooting like lightning through her spine, her legs refusing to move. Sirens screamed in the distance as strangers gathered. their voices muffled by the storm. "Stay with us," a man shouted, pressing his jacket under her head. But Maya's vision darkened, her body shaking from fear. At the hospital, bright lights pierced her eyes as doctors worked frantically. Hours blurred into minutes until at last, the words she dreaded filled the room. "The accident has damaged her spinal cord. She may never walk again." Marcus stood in the corner, his face pale. For a moment, Maya thought he would break down and hold her hand, but instead his jaw tightened. "So she's paralyzed." His tone was flat, more shock than sorrow. "Yes," the doctor said gently. "She will need intensive care, rehabilitation, and a strong support system." Maya's heart raced. A strong support system. That meant Marcus, the man she had carried all these years, would now have to carry her. At first, he tried to play the role. He told the nurses, "I'll take care of her." But Maya noticed the cracks immediately, the way he sighed when lifting her into a wheelchair, the sharpness in his voice when she needed help in the middle of the night. One evening, she asked softly, "Will you still love me like this?" Her voice trembled with fear. Marcus didn't answer. He stared at the TV, pretending not to hear. Fear settled heavy in her chest. Her mother called daily, her voice full of worry. "Maya, I'll come stay with you. You don't need to carry this alone." But Maya, still clinging to the hope of her husband's devotion, said no. She was vulnerable, trapped in a body that no longer obeyed her, relying on a man who once relied only on her. Every request for help felt like another test, and every sigh from Marcus revealed the truth. His loyalty was fragile. One night, as she struggled to shift in bed, she heard him on the phone in the next room. "I can't do this anymore," Marcus whispered harshly. You don't understand. My whole life is slipping away because of her." Maya's stomach dropped, her blood running cold. He wasn't just frustrated. He was looking for a way out. And then she heard a woman's voice reply, soft, tempting, dangerous. "I'll be here for you, Marcus. You deserve better." Maya froze. The betrayal was no longer just in her fears. It was real. Maya's recovery at home was supposed to be a new chapter of healing. Instead, it became a slow-motion nightmare. On the first day back, Marcus wheeled her into the apartment, dropped her in the living room, and muttered, "Don't expect me to do everything. I have my own life too." His words sliced deeper than the pain in her spine. The fridge was nearly empty, unpaid bills piled on the counter, and her phone buzzed with reminders from the credit union. Her job had already been given to someone else. She had missed too many days, and they couldn't hold her position. For the first time in years, she had no income. "Marcus, can you help me call HR? Maybe I can still," she began, voice hopeful. "Maya, stop. They don't want you anymore," he interrupted. "Face reality. You can't work, you can't earn, and now I have to carry everything." But he didn't carry anything. Instead, he spent his days disappearing with friends, nights coming home late, smelling of perfume that wasn't hers. He left her alone for hours, sometimes forgetting to leave food where she could reach it. The financial pressure mounted. Rent notices turned red. Creditors called daily. When Maya asked about the bills, Marcus snapped, "If you hadn't gotten yourself crippled, we wouldn't be in this mess." Each word eroded trust. Each day chipped away at hope. She tried reaching out to neighbors, but whispers followed her. That poor woman, such a shame, and her husband, always with someone new. The pity stung, almost as much as the isolation. Her mother begged again, "Maya, come stay with me. Don't let this man bury you in shame." But Maya, still clinging to vows she had once believed sacred, replied, "Mom, he's my husband. He'll come around. He has to." Yet deep inside, she knew the man she loved was already gone. The worst night came when she woke thirsty and tried to wheel herself toward the kitchen. The chair jammed against the carpet, and she fell hard to the floor, pain radiating through her fragile body. She cried out for Marcus. Minutes passed, no answer. Finally, she dragged herself across the cold tiles with her arms, sobbing, until she reached the counter and pulled down a glass of water. When Marcus finally stumbled in at 3 a.m., drunk and laughing on the phone, he stepped over her without even looking down. That was the moment something inside Maya broke. She realized she wasn't just neglected, she was abandoned in every way that mattered. The next morning, Marcus dropped another envelope in her lap. "They're shutting off the power if we don't pay. What are you going to do about it?" Her trembling fingers opened it, eyes burning. For the first time, she didn't feel sorrow, she felt fire. Because abandonment has a way of burning away illusions, and Maya was starting to see the truth. The knock on the door startled Maya. She was alone again, hungry, the apartment quiet except for the hum of the failing refrigerator. She wheeled herself slowly to the door and opened it to find Jasmine, her old college friend, someone she hadn't seen in years. "Maya," Jasmine exclaimed, stepping inside with a warm hug. "I just heard what happened. I can't believe Marcus didn't tell me sooner, you poor thing." For a moment, relief washed over Maya, a familiar face, someone from her past who once knew her before all the pain. Jasmine carried groceries, placed them on the counter, and filled the room with chatter that drowned the silence. But beneath the smiles was something Maya couldn't place. Jasmine's eyes lingered a bit too long on Marcus's photo by the wall, and when Marcus came home later that evening, the shift was undeniable. Jasmine's voice softened, her laughter grew lighter, her hand brushed his arm as they talked about the old days. Marcus didn't pull away. In fact, he leaned in, soaking up the attention. Maya's heart clenched. Later, when they were alone, Jasmine squeezed Maya's hand. "Don't worry, I'll be here for both of you. I'll help you with whatever you need." It sounded comforting. It looked like friendship, but the next weeks revealed the cracks. Jasmine's visits grew frequent, always at times when Marcus was home. She brought Maya small gifts, but lingered more and more in the kitchen with him. One afternoon, Maya overheard them laughing. She wheeled herself closer, careful not to make a sound. Jasmine's voice was playful. "You deserve someone who appreciates you, Marcus, not someone who drags you down." Marcus chuckled low. "You think I haven't thought about that?" Maya's chest tightened, breath caught between shock and betrayal. Jasmine, her friend, was crossing lines she never should, and Marcus wasn't stopping her. That night, Jasmine leaned close to Maya's chair, her tone dripping with false sympathy. "You're so strong, Maya. Honestly, I don't know how you manage. If it were me, I'd probably give up." The words stung, a backhanded compliment laced with venom. Jasmine wasn't here to build her up. She was here to position herself, to see how far Marcus's attention could tilt. Maya clung to misplaced trust, telling herself Jasmine was just being kind, just filling gaps Marcus left wide open. But deep down, she knew something dangerous was growing. The breaking point came on a stormy evening when Maya woke to hushed whispers in the next room. She wheeled herself silently to the hallway and froze. Jasmine was there, in her house, in her living room, pressed against Marcus, her lips grazing his cheek. Maya's voice cracked the air like thunder. "What are you doing in my home at this hour?" The room went silent. Jasmine stepped back, guilt flickering across her face before vanishing behind a smirk. Marcus didn't even look ashamed. He looked annoyed. And in that chilling silence, Maya realized the truth. Betrayal wasn't knocking at her door. It was already inside. Maya never imagined the man who once vowed to cherish her would stand across the room, arms wrapped around her so-called friend. Yet here it was, undeniable. "Marcus," her voice cracked, trembling with both rage and grief. "In my house, with her, after everything." Instead of remorse, Marcus sneered. "You make it sound dramatic. What do you expect, Maya? You're not the same woman I married. You can't walk. You can't work. You can't give me anything anymore. Jasmine makes me feel alive." The words struck her harder than the accident itself. Her hands gripped the armrest of her wheelchair, nails digging into the worn fabric. Jasmine smirked, brushing imaginary dust off her blouse as if Maya were nothing but an inconvenience. "You promised for better or worse," Maya whispered, her voice breaking. "You swore before God." Marcus laughed bitterly. "That was before you turned into a burden. I didn't sign up to waste my life pushing a chair." The humiliation cut deep. Maya had endured neglect, endured silence, endured sighs and cold shoulders. But this was betrayal laid bare, without shame, without cover. Jasmine tilted her head, her voice sugar-coated with cruelty. Maya, maybe it's time you faced reality. Marcus deserves happiness. Well, you've had your turn. Tears blurred Maya's vision, but she refused to let them fall. With what strength she had left, she forced herself to speak. Leave my house, both of you. Marcus's face hardened. He walked to the bedroom, gathered a duffel bag, and began stuffing it with clothes. Fine, if you want me gone, I'm gone. But don't come crawling to me when you realize you can't survive without me. Jasmine trailed behind him, glancing back at Maya with triumph in her eyes. The betrayal of a friend and a husband twisted together in one venomous image she knew would haunt her forever. Minutes later, the slam of the front door echoed through the apartment. Silence followed, thick and suffocating. Maya's heart pounded in her chest, not from fear, but from the ache of broken vows echoing in her soul. She wheeled herself to the window, staring into the night. Rain poured down the glass, mirroring the storm inside her. For years, she had been his strength, his support, his foundation. And now, when she needed him most, he had chosen someone else. Her phone buzzed. A message lit the screen. Don't call me. It's over. No apology, no hesitation, just cold departure. Maya's chest heaved, her tears finally falling. The man who once promised eternity had discarded her like an old coat. She pressed her forehead against the cold window pane, whispering into the night, God, don't let this be the end of me. And yet, as she sat alone in the hollow silence, the weight of betrayal crushing her, a knock echoed on the door, sharp, urgent, unexpected. Her heart skipped. Who could it be at this hour? The urgent knock echoed again. Maya wiped her tears, wheeled herself shakily toward the door, and opened it to find her mother, Lorraine, standing in the rain with eyes full of worry. Baby, I knew it. I knew something was wrong, Lorraine whispered, stepping inside and pulling her daughter into a fierce embrace. She smelled of shea butter and determination. The sight of her mother's face broke the last of Maya's defenses. Sobs tore out of her chest. He left me, Mama. He walked out with Jasmine. I have nothing left. Lorraine held her tighter, her hands trembling as much as Maya's voice. You are not nothing. You are my daughter. You are stronger than this pain, Maya. But despair wrapped around Maya like chains. I can't walk. I can't work. I can't even feed myself without struggling. What kind of life is this? Her mother knelt in front of the wheelchair, locking eyes with her. It's a life worth fighting for. You may not see it now, but I see it. I see the fire in you. You didn't survive that accident just to waste away in misery. For the first time in weeks, Maya felt something stir beneath the layers of grief, a flicker, small but real. Her mother's faith was like a candle in her darkness. That night, as Lorraine made her soup and tucked her in, she whispered again, Don't let his betrayal be your ending. Let it be your beginning. Maya stared at the ceiling long after her mother had fallen asleep on the couch. Her heart still ached, her body still felt broken, but her mind began whispering questions she had pushed away. What if I'm not finished? What if there's more for me? The phone rang at dawn. Lorraine answered, then handed it to Maya. It's your aunt's lawyer. He says he has something important to discuss with you. Confusion clouded Maya's face. My aunt, but she passed away years ago. The lawyer's voice came clear over the line. Mrs. Maya Johnson, I represent your late Aunt Evelyn's estate. She left behind certain provisions, but they must be discussed in person. Are you able to meet? Maya's heart pounded. Her Aunt Evelyn, distant, private, but always quietly kind. What could this mean? Lorraine squeezed her hand. Answer him, Maya, this could be something. Fear warred with hope. Part of her wanted to refuse, to stay curled in despair. But another part, the part her mother saw, was ready to rise, even if only a little. Her voice trembled, but she forced the words out. Yes, I'll meet you. The line went silent for a beat. Then the lawyer replied, Good, because this meeting will change everything. Maya's hands shook as she lowered the phone. She didn't know it yet, but the flicker of hope she had felt was about to ignite into a fire that would remake her entire life. The law office smelled faintly of leather and polished wood. Maya wheeled into the room with her mother by her side, her hands clammy from nerves. Sitting behind a mahogany desk was Mr. Reynolds, a silver-haired lawyer with kind eyes that seemed to measure her carefully. "Mrs. Johnson," he said, rising to shake her hand. "Your Aunt Evelyn spoke of you often, though you may not have realized it." Maya blinked, startled. "She did. We barely saw each other." Mr. Reynolds nodded. "That was her way, private, guarded, but she left something behind for you, something she believed would only be revealed at the right time." He slid a thick envelope across the desk. Maya's hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a letter written in her aunt's elegant handwriting. "My dearest Maya, life has a way of breaking us before it builds us. If you are reading this, I trust you have faced your breaking. I have left you a legacy, not for comfort alone, but for purpose. You are the heir to my estate, valued at $100 million. But this gift comes with conditions. It must be used to build, to restore, to give life where others see only loss. Let it shape you into who you are meant to be. With love, Aunt Evelyn." Maya's breath caught. $100 million. Her eyes darted to her mother, who covered her mouth in shock. "This isn't real," Maya whispered. "It can't be." Mr. Reynolds leaned forward. "It is very real, but your aunt insisted on one condition: secrecy. You must not reveal this inheritance publicly. Not yet. If certain people know, they may manipulate you, or worse, destroy your chance to fulfill her wishes." Maya's mind raced. Marcus, Jasmine, they had no idea. "What do I do now?" she asked, voice trembling. Mr. Reynolds smiled gently. "You rebuild, on your own terms." Maya sat in silence for a long moment, the letter still trembling in her hands. $100 million. The words felt surreal, like something from a dream she might wake up from at any moment. Her mother, Lorraine, finally spoke, her voice thick with emotion. "Baby, do you understand what this means? You're not helpless, you never were." Mr. Reynolds opened a leather portfolio and slid several documents toward Maya. "Your aunt was a remarkable woman. She built her wealth through real estate investments, tech startups, and careful financial planning. She never married, never had children. You were the only family member she truly cared about." "But why didn't she ever tell me?" Maya asked, tears streaming down her face. "Why did she let me struggle all these years?" "Because she was testing you," Mr. Reynolds said gently. "Your aunt believed that character is forged in hardship. She watched you from a distance, saw how you supported your husband, how you worked tirelessly, how you never complained. She wanted to ensure that when you received this gift, you would use it wisely, not wastefully." Lorraine squeezed her daughter's shoulder. "She saw what I always saw, a woman of strength." Mr. Reynolds continued, "There are several accounts, properties, and investment portfolios. I'll need a few days to transfer everything into your name. In the meantime, I've arranged for a financial advisor and an estate manager to meet with you. You'll also need security." "Security?" Maya's eyes widened. "Mrs. Johnson, you're now worth $100 million. Unfortunately, that makes you a target. We need to ensure your safety, especially given—" He paused delicately. "Your current physical limitations and recent personal circumstances." Maya understood immediately. Marcus. If he found out about this money, he would come crawling back, and she needed to be ready. "Mr. Reynolds," Maya said, her voice growing stronger, "I want to keep this completely confidential. No one can know, not yet." "Wise decision," he nodded. "I'll have the paperwork ready by Friday. In the meantime, is there anything you need immediately?" Maya looked at her mother, then back at the lawyer. "Yes, I need the best rehabilitation specialists money can buy. I want to fight for my mobility. And I need a new place to live, somewhere safe, accessible, where I can heal without anyone from my old life finding me." Mr. Reynolds smiled. "Consider it done." Within a week, Maya's life transformed in ways she never imagined possible. Mr. Reynolds arranged for her to be moved to a private rehabilitation center in a different part of the city, a luxurious facility that looked more like a 5-star resort than a medical center. The room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a garden, state-of-the-art equipment, and a team of the nation's top physical therapists. "We're going to work hard," said Dr. Patricia Chen, her lead therapist, a no-nonsense woman with kind eyes. "I won't lie to you, the road ahead is difficult, but I've seen people with injuries like yours regain significant mobility. It depends on your determination." "I have all the determination in the world," Maya said, her jaw set with resolve. Her mother stayed with her, sleeping in the adjoining suite. Every morning, Lorraine would wheel Maya to therapy, sit in the corner, and watch her daughter push through exercises that left her drenched in sweat and fighting back tears of pain. "5 more reps," Dr. Chen would say, her voice firm but encouraging. "You can do this." And Maya did. Week after week, her body slowly began to respond. Muscles that had been dormant started to wake up. The tingling sensations in her legs grew stronger. It was excruciating work, but for the first time since the accident, Maya felt hope. Meanwhile, back at the apartment she'd abandoned, Marcus was spiraling. The bills Maya used to pay were now overdue. The landlord had posted an eviction notice. His phone calls to her went straight to voicemail. He'd tried to track her down at the credit union, only to be told she'd resigned weeks ago and left no forwarding information. "Where the hell is she?" Marcus shouted into his phone, packing the cluttered apartment. On the other end was Jasmine, who'd grown tired of his constant complaints. "Maybe she's finally moved on," Jasmine said coldly. "Maybe she realized she's better off without you." "She can't survive without me," Marcus insisted, though doubt crept into his voice. "She's broke, paralyzed, and alone. She'll come crawling back." But days turned into weeks, and Maya remained invisible. Marcus tried calling Lorraine, but Maya's mother blocked his number. He drove to Lorraine's house, but found it empty. She'd moved in with Maya at the rehabilitation center. Desperation set in. Without Maya's income, Marcus couldn't keep up with his lifestyle. The credit cards were maxed out. His business ventures had failed. And Jasmine, who'd seemed so interested when he was the devoted husband, was suddenly distant now that he was the broke divorcee. "I thought you said you were going to make it big," Jasmine said one evening, her tone sharp. "All I see is a man living in a dump, whining about his ex-wife." "It's temporary," Marcus snapped. "Once I find Maya, I'll—" "You'll what? Beg her to take you back?" Jasmine laughed bitterly. "Face it, Marcus, you threw away the best thing that ever happened to you." 3 months into her rehabilitation, Maya stood. It lasted only 30 seconds, her legs shaking violently, sweat pouring down her face, both hands gripping parallel bars for dear life. But she stood. Dr. Chen's eyes filled with tears. "You did it, Maya. You actually did it." Lorraine sobbed openly, her hands clasped in prayer. "Thank you, Jesus, thank you." Maya's legs gave out and she collapsed back into her wheelchair, gasping for breath. But she was smiling, truly smiling, for the first time in months. "We're going to build on this," Dr. Chen said, kneeling beside her. "Every day a little stronger. Within 6 months, I believe you'll be walking with assistance. Within a year, maybe independently." That night, Maya sat in her room overlooking the gardens, a glass of sparkling cider in her hand. Her financial advisor, a sharp woman named Diane, sat across from her with a laptop. "Your portfolio is performing exceptionally well," Diane said. "Your aunt made some brilliant investments. I recommend we diversify further, perhaps into some emerging markets and renewable energy." Maya nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. "Diane, I want to start a foundation." "A foundation?" "For women," Maya said, her voice steady and clear. "Women who have been abandoned, abused, or left behind when they needed support most. I want to provide them with resources, medical care, legal support, job training, housing. Everything I wished I'd had." Diane's face lit up. "That's beautiful, Maya. We can absolutely make that happen." "And I want to fund research into spinal cord injuries," Maya continued, her passion growing. "No one should have to go through what I went through without hope." "We'll call it the Evelyn Foundation," Lorraine suggested softly, "in honor of your aunt." Maya's eyes welled with tears. Yes, the Evelyn Foundation for Women Rising. Over the next few weeks, Maya threw herself into the project with the same determination she'd shown in physical therapy. She hired a team, lawyers, administrators, public relations experts. She purchased a building in the heart of the city to serve as the foundation's headquarters. And she did it all in complete secrecy, using carefully structured LLCs and trusts that kept her name hidden from public records. Marcus had no idea that the woman he'd abandoned was now one of the wealthiest individuals in the state. 6 months after the accident, Maya's lawyer, a formidable woman named Candace Williams, sat across from Marcus in a small conference room. Marcus had been shocked when he received the certified letter requesting his presence for divorce proceedings. He'd assumed Maya would never have the resources to hire an attorney. "Where is she?" Marcus demanded. "Where's Maya?" "My client prefers not to meet with you in person," Candace said coolly. "She's asked me to handle this matter on her behalf." "This is ridiculous," Marcus scoffed. "She can't just disappear and expect to divorce me without even showing her face." Candace slid a document across the table. "These are the divorce papers. They're quite straightforward, no-fault divorce. My client is asking for nothing from you, no alimony, no division of assets. She simply wants the marriage dissolved." Marcus blinked, confused. "Nothing, she's not asking for anything." "That's correct." Something didn't sit right with Marcus. In his mind, Maya was destitute, helpless. Why wouldn't she be demanding support? "I want to see her," Marcus insisted. "I deserve to talk to my wife." "She's not your wife," Candace corrected. "And she has no interest in speaking with you. Sign the papers, Mr. Johnson, and this will all be over quickly." Marcus stared at the documents, his pride warring with his suspicion. Part of him wanted to refuse, to drag this out, to maintain some connection to Maya out of sheer stubbornness. But another part, the part that was drowning in debt and failure, saw an escape route. "Fine," he muttered, scrawling his signature across the bottom. "Good riddance." Candace gathered the papers without emotion. "You'll receive the final decree in a few weeks. Goodbye, Mr. Johnson." As Marcus left the office, he felt a strange mix of relief and unease. He told himself he'd made the right choice, that he was free now to pursue his dreams without the burden of a disabled wife. He had no idea he'd just signed away any claim to $100 million fortune. 1 year after the accident, Maya stood at a podium in an elegant ballroom, facing a crowd of journalists, community leaders, and philanthropists. She stood without assistance. Her legs were still weak, and she knew she'd need a cane for support by the end of the evening. But in this moment, under the bright lights, Maya stood tall and strong. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice clear and confident, "thank you for joining me today for the launch of the Evelyn Foundation for Women Rising." Cameras flashed, reporters scribbled notes. Maya told her story, not all of it, but enough. She spoke about her accident, her struggle, her abandonment. She spoke about the darkness she'd endured and the light she'd found. "I know what it's like to feel powerless," she said, her eyes sweeping the room. "To be dismissed, discarded, and told you have no value. But I also know what it's like to rise, and I want to help other women rise too." She announced an initial commitment of $20 million to the foundation, which would provide comprehensive support services to women facing medical crises, domestic abuse, and economic hardship. The room erupted in applause. Among the crowd, several people recorded the event on their phones, uploading clips to social media within minutes. Within hours, the story went viral. Paralyzed woman rises to create $20 million foundation for women in crisis. Maya Johnson, from abandoned wife to philanthropic powerhouse. The inspiring story of a woman who turned tragedy into triumph. And in a cramped apartment across town, Marcus scrolled through his phone, his face growing pale as he watched a video of his ex-wife, the woman he'd called worthless, standing confidently on stage, announcing her multi-million-dollar charitable foundation. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." He frantically searched for more information, his hands shaking. Articles mentioned her inheritance, though the exact amount was kept private. They spoke of her recovery, her determination, her vision. And nowhere, in any article, was his name mentioned. He'd been erased from her story completely. Marcus grabbed his phone and called Candace Williams's office, demanding to speak with her immediately. "I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson," the receptionist said pleasantly. "Ms. Williams is no longer handling any matters related to you. Your divorce was finalized 8 months ago." "I need to speak to Maya," Marcus shouted. "I'm afraid that's not possible. Have a good day, sir." The line went dead. Marcus sank onto his couch, surrounded by overdue bills and eviction notices, and realized the full weight of what he'd done. He'd thrown away a queen and kept the trash. Jasmine saw the news too. She'd long since broken things off with Marcus once his money ran out and his prospects dried up. She'd moved on to another man, another opportunity. But seeing Maya's success filled her with a toxic mix of envy and rage. She was supposed to be broken, Jasmine muttered to herself, scrolling through photos of Maya at the foundation's grand opening. She was supposed to disappear. Unable to contain herself, Jasmine crafted a long, bitter message and sent it to Maya's foundation email. "You think you're so special now with your money and your foundation? You were nothing when Marcus left you. Nothing. You got lucky with an inheritance you didn't earn. Don't act like you're some inspiration. You're just a cripple who got a handout." The message was forwarded to Maya by her assistant. Maya read it once, felt a flicker of the old pain, then smiled. She dictated a response. "Dear Jasmine, I received your message. I want you to know that I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. My success isn't about you or Marcus. It never was. It's about every woman who's been told she's worthless and chose to believe otherwise. I hope you find your own path to healing. Sincerely, Maya." The grace of the response cut deeper than any insult could have. Jasmine never wrote back. As for Marcus, desperation drove him to show up at the Evelyn Foundation's headquarters one afternoon, demanding to see Maya. Security stopped him at the entrance. "I'm her husband," Marcus shouted. "Ex-husband," the security guard corrected, checking his computer. "And you're listed as someone who is not permitted on the premises. I'm going to have to ask you to leave, sir." "You don't understand," Marcus pleaded, his voice breaking. "I made a mistake. I need to talk to her. Just 5 minutes." The guard's expression softened slightly, but his voice remained firm. "Sir, Ms. Johnson was very clear. She doesn't wish to have any contact with you. If you don't leave voluntarily, I'll have to call the police." Marcus stood there, deflated, broken. Through the glass doors, he could see beautiful offices, busy staff members, and on the wall, a large portrait of Maya, radiant, strong, powerful. The woman he'd called a burden was now beyond his reach. He turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd of the city, irrelevant and forgotten. 2 years after the accident, Maya stood in the physical therapy wing of the Evelyn Foundation's new medical center, a state-of-the-art facility dedicated to spinal cord injury rehabilitation. She walked slowly through the halls, using only a cane for balance, greeting patients and staff with warm smiles. "Ms. Johnson," a young woman called out from one of the therapy rooms, "can you come meet someone?" Maya entered to find a woman about her age in a wheelchair, tears streaming down her face. "This is Keisha," the therapist explained. "She was in a car accident 3 months ago. She's been struggling with depression, feeling like her life is over." Maya knelt beside Keisha's wheelchair, taking her hand. "I know exactly how you feel." "No offense," Keisha said bitterly, "but you're walking. You don't know what it's like to be stuck like this." Maya smiled gently. "You're right, I'm walking now. But 2 years ago, I couldn't. 2 years ago, I was where you are, paralyzed, abandoned by my husband, broke, and ready to give up." Keisha's eyes widened. You were paralyzed." "Completely. The doctors said I might never walk again, but I fought. Every single day I fought. And yes, I had help, resources that I'm now grateful to share with women like you. But the fight, that came from inside me, just like it's going to come from inside you." Tears flowed freely down Keisha's face. "I don't know if I have that kind of strength." "You do," Maya said firmly. "You survived the accident. You survived the initial trauma. That alone proves you're a fighter. And now, you don't have to fight alone." Over the next months, Maya watched Keisha progress through therapy, regaining strength and mobility. She watched dozens of other women come through the foundation's doors, women fleeing abuse, women recovering from medical crises, women rebuilding their lives after betrayal. And each one reminded Maya of who she used to be and who she'd become. One evening, Lorraine sat with her daughter on the balcony of Maya's new penthouse apartment, a beautiful, accessible space filled with light and hope. "Your aunt would be so proud of you," Lorraine said, squeezing Maya's hand. "I hope so," Maya replied. "I think about her a lot, about how she knew I'd need this inheritance not when life was easy, but when it was hard." "She knew you had it in you all along," Lorraine said, "just like I did." Maya rested her head on her mother's shoulder. "Mama, can I ask you something?" "Anything, baby." "Do you think I would have become this person, this strong, this focused, if Marcus hadn't left me, if the accident hadn't happened?" Lorraine was quiet for a moment. "I think you've always been this person, Maya. Life just forced you to remember." 3 years after their divorce, Maya ran into Marcus. It was completely by accident. She was leaving a restaurant after a business dinner when she saw him through the window of a fast food place next door. He looked terrible, thinner, older, wearing a uniform with a name tag. He was working behind the counter, taking orders with a defeated expression. Their eyes met through the glass. For a moment, neither moved. Then Maya made a decision. She walked into the restaurant and got in line. Marcus's hands trembled as she approached the counter. Up close, she could see the toll life had taken, the lines around his eyes, the gray in his hair, the weight of regret in his posture. "Hello, Marcus," Maya said calmly. "Maya," he whispered, his voice hoarse, You look amazing." "Thank you." She stood tall, elegant in a tailored suit, every inch the successful woman she'd become. "I've seen the news," Marcus said, unable to meet her eyes. "The foundation, everything you've done, it's incredible." "Thank you," she repeated, her tone neutral. Marcus swallowed hard. "Maya, I need to say something. I was wrong about everything. I was cruel and heartless, and I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me, if I could go back." "You can't," Maya interrupted gently but firmly. "And neither can I. What's done is done." "I know I don't deserve it," Marcus continued, his voice breaking, "but is there any chance, any possibility that you could forgive me?" Maya looked at him for a long moment. She thought about all the pain, all the nights she'd cried herself to sleep, all the moments she'd felt worthless and alone. And then she thought about who she'd become. "I forgave you a long time ago, Marcus," she said quietly. "Not for you, but for me. Because holding on to that anger was like drinking poison and expecting you to die. I released it so I could heal." "Does that mean?" "No," Maya said clearly. "Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't erase what happened. It just means I'm no longer carrying the weight of your betrayal. You'll have to carry that yourself." Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry, Maya, if I'd known about the money." "That's exactly the problem," Maya cut him off, her voice sharp for the first time. "You're sorry because you found out about the money, not because of how you treated me, not because you abandoned me when I needed you most, but because you realized I was worth something after all, in dollars and cents." The truth of her words hit Marcus like a physical blow. "If I'd never inherited that money," Maya continued, "would you be apologizing now? If I was still in that wheelchair, still struggling, still broke, would you feel any remorse?" Marcus opened his mouth, but no words came out. "That's what I thought," Maya said. "Goodbye, Marcus. I genuinely hope you find peace and become a better man. But that journey has nothing to do with me anymore." She turned and walked out of the restaurant with grace and dignity, leaving Marcus standing behind the counter, tears streaming down his face. As Maya's driver opened the car door for her, She paused and looked back one last time through the window. Marcus was still standing there, frozen, a living monument to his own poor choices. And Maya felt nothing, not anger, not sadness, not even satisfaction. Just peace. The Evelyn Foundation for Women Rising had grown beyond Maya's wildest dreams. With centers in 15 cities across the country, they'd helped over 10,000 women rebuild their lives. The Foundation's medical research wing had contributed to 3 major breakthroughs in spinal cord injury treatment. Maya had been featured in major magazines, given a TED Talk that had been viewed 20 million times, and received numerous humanitarian awards. But her greatest joy came from the simple moments, sitting with a woman in therapy, watching her take her first steps, seeing the light return to eyes that had been dimmed by trauma and abuse. She'd also found love again. Dr. James Mitchell, a neurosurgeon who volunteered at the Foundation's medical center, had pursued Maya for months before she finally agreed to have dinner with him. "I don't need rescuing," Maya had told him firmly on their first date. "Good," James had replied with a smile. "I'm not a rescuer, but I am a partner if you'll have me." Their relationship had grown slowly, built on mutual respect, shared values, and genuine partnership. James loved her not despite her past, but because of how it had shaped her strength. On their wedding day, small and intimate with close friends and family, Maya's mother whispered in her ear, "Your Aunt Evelyn would be dancing if she could see you now." Maya smiled through happy tears. "I think she can, Mama. I think she can." As she and James exchanged vows, real vows, spoken with full understanding of what for better or worse truly meant, Maya reflected on her journey. The accident that had nearly destroyed her had actually saved her. It had revealed the true nature of people around her. It had stripped away illusions and false securities. It had forced her to discover her own strength. And ultimately, it had led her to her purpose. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best thing that ever happened to you. Sometimes you have to fall completely apart to rebuild yourself into who you were always meant to be. And sometimes, the people who abandon you at your lowest point do you the greatest favor of all. They get out of the way so you can rise. Maya had risen, and she would spend the rest of her life helping other women rise too. Because that's what queens do. They don't just wear crowns. They help others find their own. This story is dedicated to every woman who has been told she is worthless, who has been abandoned in her time of need, who has been betrayed by those who promised to love her. You are stronger than you know. Your story is not over. Rise, Queen. The world is waiting for you.